Welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls Podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, series, and more.
We're back with the Empyrean series, baby! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Today's bonus episode is all about the big announcement that Rebecca shared on Good Morning America this morning with the Empyrean 3 book title, release date, and then we also got 2 book trailers. But as always, before we dive into this bonus episode, please listen closely to our content warning. Most importantly, we are discussing spoilers for both Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, plus any other Empyrean-related information that is available to us, like Rebecca Yarros interviews and such.
So if you don't know why we e-searched both of our books for every instance of the word Onyx, please go read the books. We will be here, probably still screaming, when you're done.
And then, of course, we at Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, folks, this podcast is rated R.
Honestly, we've been up since 4:45 a.m. this morning, so all bets are off on our potty mouths today. Because of that, please be mindful of little listening ears.
I love how I'm a mom, and so 4:45 is like pretty normal.
I am barely alive right now.
Last thing before we jump into predictions, theories, and more about Empyrean 3. If you love Fantasy Fangirls and want more content, more community, more events, early access to ad-free deep dive episodes, copies of our gigantic outlines, and more, please check out our Patreon.
We have 2 tiers that you can join, the Valkyries and the High Fae, also known as the Cadets and Dragon Riders, but we're currently deep diving ACOTAR, so we gotta stay on theme. But seriously, our Patreon is absolutely stellar. It has been blowing up today in the Discord, especially with the exciting news. We already have an entire Discord section devoted to Onyx Storm, and it's amazing. You all are amazing. We love you so much.
We also have a fun Patreon exclusive community event covering dragon knowledge, and then we're going to follow it up with trivia this Saturday, March 30th. We also have just so many other fun live events every single month for our Patreon members. So if you're interested in joining the party, you can do so at patreon.com/fantasyfangirls. The link to join is in the show notes or YouTube caption, depending how you're tuning in. And really and truly, thank you so much for your support.
And now, thrones are red. Onyx is black. Zaddy, we missed you. It's good to be back.
Did you come up with that yourself?
Yes, I did.
It's so cute. Let's begin this episode with a mini battle brief of what the heck has happened over these last several weeks and everything that we have learned, including this morning's announcement.
It was many weeks ago in late December when Rebecca Yarros posted to her Instagram that she was officially starting the writing process of Empyrean 3, and the fandom went feral. She began to post to her Instagram stories with different songs and the quote of writing vibes, fandom feralness number 2. However, the plot recently thickened when another untitled Red Tower book made its way to number 1 on the Amazon bookseller list. I'm not kidding. Days later, Michael Leoch, voice actor who's been posting Terran videos in association with Red Tower and Rebecca Yarros, posted that there would be an announcement next week, Fandom Feral number 3. Quickly after this post of this upcoming announcement, Rebecca Yarros pulled a Taylor Swift and changed her profile picture to black and white, causing the fandom to absolutely spiral. After a week of everyone turning on the notification alerts for Rebecca Yarros' Instagram, she shared that she will be unveiling Empyrean news on Good Morning America today, March 28th, which brings us to early this morning. The Queen herself made the announcement. Book 3 in the Empyrean series will be released on January 21st, 2025, with the title of Onyx Storm. Ooh! It was quickly followed up with 2 book trailers. Yes, we will be going through these basically line by line on social media. And this was feral number infinity.
While we know she is still writing this book, we also know that January 21st cannot come soon enough. That's just 6 days after your birthday, Nicole.
It is. Happy birthday to me. As we take our minds back to Bezgaeth, I cannot help but think about our Bezgaeth running club duo of Imogen and Violet, which, fun fact, I've actually started running again as well. But I'm quickly realizing that I need better hydration. Enter my hydration buddy, Element.
Element is an electrolyte solution that has enough sodium, potassium, and magnesium to get you feeling and performing your best. Plus, my favorite part is that it has 0 sugar, artificial flavors, or other dodgy ingredients to hold you back.
I was also blown away by the amount of Element flavors. There is truly something for everyone. I have been loving my typical watermelon salt, which is my personal favorite right now. But I also tried citrus salt for the first time recently, and it revived me one day. It really, truly did.
Element came up with a fantastic offer for our listeners. Just go to drinklmnt.com/FFG to get a free sample pack with any purchase. Thanks, Element. So now that we're caught up on the basics of what's been happening in the Empyrean world, let's start dissecting what it all means for the series, and more specifically, Book 3/Onyx Storm. I got to get used to saying, I've been so used to saying Book 3 for so long that now I have to start saying Onyx Storm. And I'd just like to emphasize that this is the start of many conversations and speculations and theories about this book. We're working really fast right here, and we can't wait to have more time to process and share more thoughts. And this is, again, just a great conversation opener here for us.
Well, speaking of conversation opener, I think we have to open this conversation with the title, which we learned this morning is Onyx Storm. Oh, I love it. Like the second we saw, it was accidentally leaked by Barnes & Noble early before the announcement on Good Morning America. Whoops. But no one works harder than Reddit, and the book Reddit specifically. It was immediately taken down, but someone had screenshotted the email that they got in regards to it, and it blew up the internet. So we learned it a little bit early, but the second it was dropped, it was like, yes. Oh my God. Yes. I love it.
I love that it's different than I expected, but still on brand, especially with the two words where the first describes the second. I personally thought that the title was going to include silver, specifically because it refers to Violet's hair. And I thought that was what Rebecca was trying to say with the black and white photos. Hey, Onyx is very close to silver. It's just describing Xaden instead of Violet here. And I just love how Onyx fits so well for Xaden. We know a lot of readers were speculating that the title was going to include something related to the squad structure in the writer's quadrant, like for instance, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame. And so people were thinking that this would be Claw or another dragon element that is used for Besgaia's military structure. But hey, I love this. And I also think that it opens up so many other possibilities beyond what we've already known about our story too. I also just absolutely love how the second word is storm. While we can guess all day long what this title will mean, I also ultimately think that Rebecca very well may have it just so embedded in the story that it'll be impossible for any of us to truly guess what it is based on our current knowledge and what we have available to us. Take Iron Flame for a perfect example and what it ended up meaning for the story. So anyway, it'll be so much fun to guess this, and also just not taking ourselves too seriously.
Well, and something I just thought of is Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, both of those being associated with the Besgaia military structure. We know that she's in her second half of her second year at Besgaia, but what if these two books, I'm pointing to Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, were so embedded in Besgaia, hence having it a little bit in the title? Maybe Onyx Storm is where we venture out fully and we actually aren't at Besgaia. We'll speculate on that a little bit here, but and probably much more obviously in the lead up to Onyx Storm. But that's just something I thought of, is maybe this is actually a representation of how Violet's not going to be as associated with Besgaia.
Yes, and the original plan will not pan out. Yeah, I could definitely see that too. Yep. And of course, Iron Flame, it does not actually mean flame as in the section like Fourth Wing did, but it was definitely a really cool play on words there.
So let us all remember where Iron Flame left off. Let's go back to that emotional trauma we all shared together with the huge cliffhanger of Xaden turning Venom. And given the fact that his eyes are now red rimmed, at least whenever he pulled from the source, I'm going to assume he's going to do it again. So whenever he pulls from the source, we'll talk about that more in a second. Your eyes actually only turn red when you're this level of Venom, which is the lowest level. Your eyes only turn red very, so indistinguishably that you have to be up close to a person. Other than that, they look pretty normal, which hence why Jack Barlow was able to blend in with the crowd for so long. But his eyes, we need to talk about Xaden's eyes normally, which are always described as gold-flecked onyx. Bow, 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 bow. Many of us, when we heard Onyx Storm, we circled in on that word onyx, and our thoughts immediately went to our boy Zaddy. So I want to just dissect for a second on the word onyx. Lexi, we got a gemstone watch here.
Oh man, we got a gemstone watch.
So I was looking up the meaning of onyx, and depending on what color onyx it has different meanings. There's a bunch of different ones on the internet. But there was one in particular that really stood out to me that I want to pull for this gemstone watch. In ancient times, onyx was believed to have a demon imprisoned within that would awaken in the night, sowing discord, especially between lovers. Nowadays, strength-giving onyx is a protective stone for dark nights and lonely places. That's ominous. Don't like that. So demon imprisoned, I think that's pretty obvious with Xaden turning Venin. Obviously, awaken in the night. There's a lot of night shadowing here. And so shadows obviously associated with that. But the sowing discord between lovers is what really, I think, is going to be a huge part of our story. We'll discuss that more in a minute, but I thought that was just so cool to pick out right there. But for shits and giggles, let's look at Onyx Storm as two separate words. And we did an ebook search through both of our books of Iron Flame and Fourth Wing for these two individual words. Now, unsurprisingly, in Fourth Wing, the word onyx is actually only describing Xaden's eyes. There is no other association. Quote, his eyes are the shade of gold flecked onyx. That is in chapter 1 of Fourth Wing.
And then in Iron Flame, again, we get a lot of onyx being described with Xaden's eyes, but we also get a few other additions of how onyx is used. Number 1, the ward stone in Orisha. Violet asks, is it onyx? To which Xaden replies, we can't say for certain, but my father thought it was polished iron. And then there's 2 more instances too, which one here, okay, everybody buckle up. The stone covered in really complex runes that is inside of each wyvern. It is literally an onyx stone. Oh my God. So the wyvern are onyx. Like there is that correlation there too.
The inside, we should say the inside stone to resurrect as far as we know, the wyvern are
correct.
Onyx.
Yeah, that essentially creates, essentially that how the Venin create the wyvern is inserting a rune inside of the wyvern. I have no idea how it then, grows, but whatever. I'm sure we'll learn about that. And
all I imagine is
and
that chia pet that you just described.
I was thinking of like my kids and like how I like put a little thing in their bathtub and then it like the dinosaur becomes a dinosaur. It went from an egg to a dinosaur.
It's like a bath time toy gone wrong.
Yes. Anyway. But yeah, so that is onyx. And then the second one is in the throne scene. Hey, Nicole's favorite scene. And it's when Violet thinks, quote, shimmering onyx wraps around my mind and everything intensifies. Now, of course, we can assume that shimmering onyx is referring to Xaden, because remember how afterward he's kind of like in her head and it's a little bit weird and he's all freaked out about that. But Nicole, you actually had a few other thoughts about what this could mean as well.
So the fact that it was in association with this moment, which if you remember on the podcast, and if not, you've got a lot of podcasting to listen to us dissecting Iron Flame and Fourth Wing. But when we got to the throne scene in Iron Flame, we discussed this exact line right here and how the shimmering onyx wrapping around her mind is actually a different way of her describing how Xaden and her as mind-to-mind speak is normally. So it is a very unique instance here, and how that actually might be a neon sign to her second signet. Now, could the onyx in Onyx Storm be a representation of a second signet for her? Maybe. I'm leaning no, just because that doesn't seem right with how often it's associated with Xaden. Even here, it is an association with Xaden. But if you want to hear us fully dissect the possible second signet possibilities associated with this line right here, check out our throne scene episode of Fourth Wing, which we'll link in the show notes. Now, you might be thinking as we go through these two instances of all the onyx, what about Tarn? And the only reason why we were personally leaning away from him being associated with the word onyx here is because he's actually never described in the 2 original books with using the word onyx. And there's a lot of association with Onyx and Xaden. So we're leaning much more towards Xaden than Tarn. However, in Xaden's POV of chapter 16 in the special edition of Fourth Wing, he does describe his mental bond with Tarn as being Onyx. So it could be associated with Tarn, with Onyx. Again, we're leaning no, but also who would have known that Iron Flame meant a wardstone fire? So who knows?
All right. So now that we've outlined where onyx has shown up in our story already, let's shift gears and chat about the second word, storm.
I want to talk about storm symbolism in literature and how it normally refers to, instead of like the rain, go away, it doesn't really refer to the weather report. It instead refers to a more deeper meaning of an internal struggle or inner turmoil, which again, ominous, but I'm definitely, knowing Rebecca's writing style, I'm leaning more towards the deeper meaning here behind the word storm. I don't think it means like crackle, bah, like despite having lightning as one of the signets we're working with here. I want to do a quick shout out to Michelle2213 for sharing this on the Discord today behind the storm symbolism. Thank you so much. You rock. Now, obviously, the thing we most associate storm here with is Lilith Sorrengail, her signet, RIP, my girl, and Violet's lightning. However, two things I want to just point out here with this word being associated with Violet. We know that her signet from Taryn after reading Iron Flame, it is not like lightning wielder, it is power wielder that manifests itself in lightning, at least for now. That's exciting to think about. Also, it is basically confirmed from the Variety article that was released right after Iron Flame that book 3 will be having a lot of Violet discovering her second signet, which is kind of surprising that the second word in this title is storm. That's what gives me pause in thinking that this is actually associated with Violet. I think it's associated with something very differently that we'll talk about soon. So I'm actually leaning towards storm not being involved with Violet's signet at all.
Interesting.
I'll tell you more in a second.
Oh, well, like we did for Onyx, we also did an ebook search for Storm. In Fourth Wing, Storm is mostly associated with Lilith. There's also a storm as Violet crosses the parapet. Violet mentions loving storms and how they calm her. And of course, one of our favorite lines, quote, "I am the sky and the power of every storm that has ever been. I am infinite." So storm also in that moment, it means power and control. And again, it really ties into her feeling connected to that signet.
Now, looking ahead at Iron Flame, it is again mainly associated with Lilith. There is one mention of another storm wielder in First Wing. If this First Wing storm wielder is so important that he's suddenly the book title, I will be shocked. But, you know, there's a storm the night of Violet's fight with the Venin in Takaris's house, little, Venin arena. Then we also get in chapter 56, aka the intrinsic come to light chapter. Violet thinks a storm is rolling in, but no, it is a horde of wyvern. You mean the things with an onyx stone inside of them? Yes, those things. Violet describes herself as a storm, and this is where I think storm is coming from. Xaden says to Violet, quote, "What we build together has to be strong enough to withstand a storm." I think Xaden is the Onyx Storm. I think that he is the thing that they are going to have to be strong enough to overcome together. This decision that he has made to become a Venin. Dude, like what a choice. And now, does this mean he's going to go full villain mode and that will be the big cliffhanger? I don't know. But I think that his choice and what he has made and how this affects him and Violet, I think that he is the Onyx Storm that they have to be together on and be strong enough to withstand. Now, another option for this Onyx Storm is that horde of wyvern. If the Onyx Storm is not a physical storm, but a perceived storm of these onyx, resurrected wyvern coming for them, I could see that as well. I like my Xaden as the Onyx Storm a lot more, but that's why I'm leaning away from it actually being associated with Violet. Now, it could be like
both.
It could be both. Yeah. It could be some
and that's, I love the idea of that double meaning there. But I love that he is the Onyx Storm that they have to essentially overcome together. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we need to just call this out again. Rebecca Yarros is a plot master. So Storm and Onyx could be associated with an event in the book. I could also see us having a flashback moment in regards to a storm. So let's say, for instance, Violet's second signet is talking to the dead. Maybe she resurrects one of the first 6, or maybe she resurrects Papa Sorrengail. One can only hope. And this resurrected person gives us a huge download of something really, really, really important that happened. Maybe it happened during a storm. So that is another option. Or hell, maybe Violet will actually ride Andarna in this book, and maybe that'll be the first time they do that together in a storm. That's a possibility.
Yes, I absolutely could see it being a really big event that catapults our story in one way or another. I will say my gut is leaning towards it being more of a symbolic nature that reflects both Xaden and Violet, the looming darkness and the power that they have to overcome, whether that's your Onyx Storm idea that it is embodying Xaden, or that it is more of like that yin and yang where he's the Onyx and she's the Storm.
So speaking of that, with it being symbolic of both Xaden and Violet. One of the things that a lot of people have assumed with this next book, especially since Onyx is something we so highly associate with Xaden, is that this could be a dual POV book. Some people are thinking it could just be a Xaden book, or it could be a Xaden going back to Fourth Wing and retelling the story through his point of view. I think we can fully say that will not happen because of how often Rebecca has said book 3, book 3, book 3. She's not saying book 4, y'all. Like, this is book 3. We have confirmed that this is book 3.
And she does not have the time to write a Xaden POV of a previous book or a novella, or like, she is focused on book 3, and that is what she is writing. There are only so many hours in the day.
So I think it's pretty safe to say that if this is going to include more Xaden POVs than, the one per chapter that we've gotten in each individual book, not including special editions, it could be a dual POV. It definitely could, especially with Onyx being so associated with Xaden and Storms with Violet. That makes me nervous, though, because why would it need to be a dual POV? Are they going to be separated? Is he going to do that heroic dude thing where he's like, "You're safer without me, meh," and yeet out of there? Or is she, she is still at her second year at Besgaiath. So if she does not leave the school and she actually stays there, it might be more of them being separate due to the same nature that they were separate at the beginning of Iron Flame. If it is a dual POV, though, I am feral for more Xaden and Sigale. I can't wait. Oh my God. And Xaden and Garrick, I want Sigale to rip Xaden a new asshole next book. I'm so excited. But also, if it is through his point of view, like, might we get some more of his mom? We have confirmation that she's going to show up in the story at some point. We don't know if that's in book 3 or beyond. But if it is in Xaden's POV more, I could see us furthering along his storyline with his mom quicker. I don't know.
And you know what? I just realized if we do get more of his POV, I bet you will finally find out what Garrett's signet is.
Yes.
Which is one of those things that's like, it doesn't really, really matter, but man, it does keep you up at night sometimes.
Well, and also, like, we might figure out this whole mystery behind Bodhi looks just like Xaden. Bodhi looks just like Xaden. We might get some more insight into his backstory.
Somebody on our Discord cracked the code for his family tree and how the Besgaiath records show that Sigale was bonded with his great uncle, not his grandfather. And so I really do. I keep meaning to make a social post about it. It is absolutely incredible and give her full credit, but I will save that for another day.
We should note that this person makes family trees and like genealogy, like that's part of their job. Like, the second it was posted, Lexi texted me with a photo of it and was like, oh my God. Let's just say there's a mysterious person that's kind of the key to everything with that family tree. So I'm so excited. I
can't wait to break down that possible family tree. Shouts to you, SS Archivist. You are amazing, and I can't wait to share your discovery. Anyway, moving on. I definitely do think that we are going to be getting more Xaden POV in the third book, like full stop, more than just the one chapter at the end of each of the books like we previously have. At the end of Iron Flame, he was gung-ho on staying at Besgaiath, or at least within Navarre's wards, so his venom power isn't as strong. But I also don't see Mr. Xaden Ryerson as a guy who just sits around at Besgaiath when there's a lot of other problems to solve. So I think he would want to go off and try to fix things, but on his own, without Violet to keep her safe and separated from him when he's beyond the wards. So I definitely could see them being separated, with him essentially refusing to let her join him because he is going to be out beyond the wards and he does not want to be a danger to her.
I am convinced that Xaden is the Onyx Storm here, and that he's going to be some big storm. Like, again, this is the literary version of Storm, more like the internal struggle and all that kind of stuff that they need to be strong enough to overcome, which is terrifying, especially given the fact that Rebecca Yarros has been sharing her writing vibes on her stories. And one of the songs was I Did Something Bad, and the other song was Until We Go Down, which I'll pull the lyrics from in a sec. Actually, let's just go ahead and dissect these different songs because So the first one she shared was when she was starting book 3, which is the Lakes bonus track by Taylor Swift. To be honest, I listened to the song, I listened to the lyrics. There was nothing where I was like, oh, this is meeting in our story. You all might think differently, and feel free to let us know, because I might have just not been thinking of something. But I particularly want to talk about I Did Something Bad, because this is also by Taylor Swift, unsurprising. This was posted with a dagger and a storm emoji. So there she was, just kind of hinting at the title from the very beginning. The lyrics that she screenshotted were, they're burning all the witches, even if you aren't one, so light me up. Shouts to you, Bryce Quinlan. This has to be a Xaden POV chapter. I would how is it not? Like, the only thing that's throwing me off is the dagger, because I do normally associate the dagger with Violet. But Sealy Queen in our Discord mentioned that maybe it's an onyx dagger, possibly.
I was thinking it was more like a battle, and it's more so describing Violet because we associate her with daggers, like you were just saying. And then there's this representation of her entering her own villain era where she's willing to do whatever it takes to save her man. I'm going to be going a little bit more in detail about that in a few moments.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I mean, another option is maybe this is not associated with Xaden or Violet, and this is actually a Jack fucking Barlow section. Like, not a POV by any means. I don't think he's going to have his own POV. If he does, I swear to that is just
I give up.
Fuck you,
I give up.
That would be amazing.
If you're new here, I have a whole stink with JFB.
Oh, Jack fucking Barlow. Honestly, it would probably be him talking to Xaden. Like, we know that there is going to be a lot more Jack in the next book. Rebecca Yarros has mentioned that old enemies when she made the announcement this morning on Good Morning America. She made the announcement that old enemies is going to be definitely a part of the book. So that might be JFB. We have a few different options to it. But so maybe this I did something bad is actually Jack fucking Barlow's take.
I refuse to believe that. We'll keep speculating on who those old enemies might be in a little while, but I do also want to bring up that maybe an old enemy has to be killed with this alloy hilted dagger too, and that's where that dagger comes in. And I would just imagine that it would be Violet probably, and taking that old enemy, and that old enemy is actually the Venom, because hey, she does have a Venom enemy who we're supposed to think is dead, but I learned my lesson from Jack, so I have different feelings about him being dead.
Well, I was going to ask, do you think Jack fucking Barlow is going to die in this book?
God, I hope so. And I just want him to stay dead. I
think that's for the story. I think that's truly just for spite.
It's just like, I have personal beef with Jack at this point. Like, beyond everything else that he has done, I have beef with him.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Another song that she posted was Until We Go Down by Ruel. And the lyrics, this is terrifying. The lyrics that she pulled, and again, this is like on her screenshot. She has the lyrics at the bottom. These are the ones that were on the screen. Quote, "And I feel it through my veins, and I need that fire just to know that I'm awake." If this is not Xaden pulling from the source, it could be Jack Barlow, but I hope not. It has to be Xaden, because he's not gonna not pull from the source again. Like, he has to. Dramaticness.
Yes, I feel like it has to be Xaden as well. But I'm also positive Rebecca likes to mess with us. So, hey, maybe it is indeed Jack, like, just because she loves to mess with us with Jack. But anyway, I do agree with you that we are not done seeing Xaden channel from the source. And every time he does, it makes it a little harder to come back and for his soul to be saved, however that might work. Oh, you know what I just realized?
What?
Maybe Nolan has to work on Xaden, since he's apparently the expert in keyword trying, to mend souls. And then because Xaden really doesn't like Nolan for obvious reasons, he kills him because F you, Nolan. We're still mad at you. Anyway, don't mind me just throwing theories at the wall like spaghetti right now.
The only thing is, I don't think Xaden's going to tell anybody. I think it's going to be so,
True.
like, there's no way even Garrick's going to know. I think it's going to be like, I think it's going to get out at some point somehow. Like, maybe, he pulls from the source a little too much and gets a little too red rimmed. But
because Violet can't keep secrets. We all know that.
She did keep it longer than we thought she would last book. We have to give her credit.
Kind of halfway.
I don't think that Xaden's Venomism is going to be a publicly known thing. I mean, like, even just beyond Violet publicly, like, obviously Sigale and the Dragons, but I don't think that's going to be known at least until halfway through the book, like, minimum.
Yes, that is a very good point. And that could also even be more Easter eggs from Iron Flame with how secretive he was being. And then it's going to turn around and he's the one who has to keep the ultimate secret in the next book.
I love it. I love it so much. So another song that she posted was So It Goes, also by Taylor Swift. The lyrics on the page were, quote, "You know I'm not a bad girl, but I do bad things with you, so it goes." I'm assuming, considering the words bad girl, we're getting Violet right here. And we've already mentioned a Violet villain era, which I love that. I love that idea. Now, the immediate thought that I had here was like, would Xaden maybe not try to turn her, but she says, "I do bad things with you." Also, we also know that this is not going to be a one-to-one of a Taylor Swift song versus Onyx Storm. Like, we also need to call that out. But I do think that Rebecca Yarros is sharing these particular lyrics for a reason. So there could be a possibility of her turning, Xaden trying to turn her, probably not. I'm leaning away from Violet going Venom. I don't think she's going to. I will happily accept that egg if she does. Or this could be some kind of heist in Besgaiath because she's still not done with school. Like, she still has to go back and take her SATs in the form of war games at the end of this freaking year.
That is true.
And the last song we want to pull here is Vigilante Shit, also by, you guessed it, Taylor Swift. The lyrics on the page were, quote, "Lately she's been dressing for revenge. Ladies always rise above. Ladies know what people want." I mean, I don't think she's going to turn, but that's ominous.
I also don't think that Violet will turn. But like I said, she's starting to enter her own version of a villain era. And when I think about villain era, I think about it very differently than like your typical villain era. Like, she's more of a Gryffindor and Ravenclaw villain era, not a Slytherin one, if that makes sense. She would be going down this route for the greater good, for saving him, for kind of almost like getting lost in the darkness in order as she's trying to find the light. That is what I mean more about how her villain era could be. Based on all the knowledge we know, I don't could it be the Venom? Could it be Jack? Because I'm sure she wants some revenge on him for, things. And yeah,
you want some revenge on Jack.
Why am I so hung up? He's like not even mentioned him very much, and I'm just really hung up on him right now. We're back in Empyrean, and I still have beef.
Okay, that's really nerve-wracking. But do you know what's not nerve-wracking? Eating quick and easy healthy meals. That's why we love Daily Harvest, which helps us eat healthy even when we're super busy with all of the Empyrean news to cover. Daily Harvest takes the planning, prep, and cleanup out of cooking by delivering my favorite veggie and fruit-packed meals straight to my door.
Usually keeping healthy habits means the same old boring meals. At least that's how it used to be in my household, but not with Daily Harvest. They've got so many great options for any time of day, which means sticking to healthy habits is a breeze. Not only does my family love all of their smoothies, I'm also obsessed with their pastas and flatbreads too.
Create healthy habits that last with Daily Harvest. For a limited time only, go to dailyharvest.com/FFG to get $30 off your first box plus free shipping. That's dailyharvest.com/FFG for $30 off your first box and free shipping. dailyharvest.com/FFG. So in addition to the date, the title, we also got two different, I'll say really one teaser and one bonus post is the only way I don't.
Like a headline kind of thing.
Yeah. I think that's a great way. So let's start with this headline type of post. It was posted by Yours with Love X on Instagram. And the text on the post was, quote, "First he was her enemy, then her lover. Now she must save his soul." Xaden is the Onyx Storm. Done. That's it.
You already have a hill that you're going to die on, really.
You really do. The only thing to ingrain it more for me would have been Onyx would have been in italics. That's truly all.
Oh, jeez.
But this does beg the question: do you think Xaden will end Onyx Storm cured? I'm going to cured in quotations. But.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to say that I feel like we'll get a new definition of the word cured. It's not going to be so black and white where he's cured of being a villain versus just being a bad guy villain. I bet that this book will explore that towards the end, that it isn't so black and white. I personally don't think that Xaden will be fully cured, at least in the sense that we imagine it right now. I don't think that his villainhood will be behind our crew by the end of this book. Like, that seems really, I'll say, short for how big of an impact it could have. Now, of course, it might work really well within the story and how it does move the story forward onto continuing new, bigger and better things as, series do tend to go. We still have 2 more books after all. So I don't think that it's going to just be wrapped up with a bow. He's going to be cured and everybody moves on with the next set of problems here. I swear, though, if love is the answer to saving his soul, but I don't think that it will be that cheesy or wholesome, to be honest. I could see, however, love having something to do with mending his soul. Come on, it's his soul. It's the woman he loves who's trying to save him. There is going to be some kind of element of love being in that cure, but I don't think it will be a black and white, okay, Xaden is cured from being a villain. I think that it'll be a lot more nuanced and a lot more complex, and it'll be more building blocks for what is to come in the later books.
I don't think he's going to be cured at all. I think like in any form by the end of this book. I definitely think by the end of the series, whether that's he's cured in the form of like he's alive and happy and well, or he's cured in the form of he's no longer around anymore, meaning he died.
Don't get everybody mad at you right now, Nicole. Jeez.
Listen, I'm trying to adjust expectations because a lot of people are really freaked out about him dying. There is a possibility that he does not make it through this series. But I don't think he will end this book cured. Rebecca Yarros loves to end a book on a cliffhanger that absolutely destroys you. Now, it could be a more, I'll call it hopeful cliffhanger, like it was with Brennan walking in at the end of Fourth Wing, or it could be a soul-crushing, literally, cliffhanger like Iron Flame and Ven and Xaden. I'm leaning towards soul-crushing. This woman loves to hurt us. Like, I definitely think that is going to be the case. So if it's going to be him not being cured, but him going full Xaden villain mode, him going full venification, like heading out. I truly don't know. I don't think that she will do that in he just leaves. Like, I don't think that's going to be Rebecca's style there. If anything, it would just totally depend on what happens in the, like, I'll call it middle meat of Onyx Storm. Moving into the Red Tower post, because this is where we get like a book trailer. We get a quote from the book, which I was not expecting today.
I was hoping, but that seemed like way too much to hope for. Like, I was at first like, okay, let us just get a release date. And as much as I want to know the release date for the same reasons as everyone else, for us, we do have like scheduling, like podcast scheduling stuff to keep in mind. So we really needed it for our own sakes. And then of course it's like, okay. And then secondly, oh my gosh, I would love the title. Like, that would be fantastic. And then third, it was like, well, maybe we get the cover. I was like, oh my gosh, like if we were to get a teaser of this, like, wow.
That would be greedy.
That was very nice. That was very nice. Yes. But it does make sense though, which I know you're about to get into here.
So the book trailer said, quote, "She needs to prepare herself, and so do you. There's every chance this mission will kill us." That's as low as my voice could go. The caption said, though, quote, "The voice of Taryn is by the incredibly talented Michael Leoch." So we do know that this is a Taryn line, or at least I don't trust anything out of Red Tower right now, but I think we can confidently say that this is a Taryn quote. You'll also recognize Michael Leoch from his viral Taryn voice videos. He's incredible. He was also part of the announcement teaser post last week. But the question is, in this quote, who is Taryn talking to? The first thought is talking to Violet about Andarna. Andarna needs to prepare herself, and so do you, Violet. Another option is flip it around. It is him talking to Andarna about Violet. Since we are always in a first-person POV, though, normally with Violet, with sprinkles of Xaden, obviously, I think it's highly more likely that this is a talking to Violet quote.
I absolutely agree. I do think that he is talking to Violet about Andarna, because Andarna has largely been shielded from these missions, or at least was supposed to stay hidden. She did not, but she was not supposed to be part of these missions that they have been going on over the last few books. And that is when our characters are in danger, right? So this may be Andarna's first venture out on a mission, and Taryn is giving the dad talk about preparation, which also gives me hope that she's continuing to get better at flying, where he is confident that she can at least join them for a mission.
Someone on Instagram also mentioned that this could be, especially if we're in more Xaden POV, this could be Taryn talking to Xaden about Violet.
I could see that being a big possibility too. Taryn doesn't usually talk to Xaden, but there are some exceptions, and this could certainly be one of them, especially when they are both always looking out for Violet and her safety is first.
Now, the big question is the second part of the sentence. There's every chance this mission will kill us. Again, I can never do it as good as Michael Leoch. I will never try. But
Nicole, just like channel your inner Andarna and just like pretend to like be sassy when talking.
Chance this mission will kill us. Give me goats. But the question is, what is this mission? I'm going to strongly assume it's either Venin related or Navarre leadership related. Going back to the Venin option, do they need to go to the Barons in order to figure out a cure or in order to get more information? Maybe not Papa Sorrengail's research. It is not in the Barons. There's no way.
Do not get me started on where his research is. That is not for this episode. But I need to know.
We know that Violet knows where it is. So odds are it is in Navarre. We should just go ahead and say that.
I'll even say it's in Biscayas.
Also, I want to just call out really quickly, and someone mentioned this in a comment, and I'm so sorry I did not catch the name because it was such a fast morning. They mentioned that Taryn does not ever talk about death as a possibility. In fact, he gets mad when Xaden starts to even hint at that. So whatever this mission is, it shows just how dire and bad it might be.
That is such a good point. Taryn usually plays life coach when it's like, knock that shit off. Like, we are not dying today. And Violet's like, you're right, we're not dying today. Especially when she and Zayden are trying to say their goodbyes. And he's like, nope, like, we're not dying today. Let's go. And yes, this mission, that means that it must be extra dangerous no matter who he is talking to. And that their lives really are at stake. And I have to wonder, Taryn, have we not already been through this a few times? I almost just said what could be worse. And I know that I'm going to eat those words. So yeah, take it back. I'm taking it back.
We will get worse. I think we can confidently say that. Rebecca Yarros, she will continue building these books up, but I think we will get worse. But last thing that we need to highlight, at least from the big announcements today, was Rebecca Yarros's wording around the announcement herself. So she mentioned how this book is going to have politics, looking at you, Lex, new adventures, old enemies, and of course, dragons. Most of these are self-explanatory. New adventures we can speculate on day in and day out. Yes, Lexi?
Politics, I just want to say, I think that we're going to get a lot more about Navarre's royalty because it's only been sprinkled in a tiny bit. And I could definitely see Arik being set up as a bigger character. He's definitely been kind of like a secondary side character. But I strongly think that he is going to come in to be not one of our main characters, but definitely a B character, where right now he's more of like a C, D character. So I definitely think I could see, I would love to see him more involved. There might be a political black hole now that Lilith is gone, and who's going to fill her place as the general, especially like helping lead Basgaeth. So there's a lot of questions around politics. I could also see our friends going to Kaldir, maybe in search of a cure or for some other reason that, of course, we don't have any idea yet.
I could see them being called to Kaldir. Like, they're supposed to like get in front of the king and do something
and have to explain what the hell happened at Basgaeth.
Because then we get to see the oldest brother, most likely. We get to see Halden. That would be insanely cool. Now, the question is, I'm assuming Arik is going to stay at Basgaeth. I don't think he is going to be called back to Kaldir. The king might try, but I don't think
the king doesn't know where he is right now. Remember,
that's
that
true.
Was, again, very like nobody really seemed to know or care. I mean, of course, also Arik was we're getting really in the weeds right here.
Yeah.
But Arik, he had an excuse for why he was not at home, because he was doing like his 20th birthday around the world, like drinking and having a lot of fun. His Vegas tour.
The world. Yes.
Yes. Like it was his Vegas tour, let's just say. And he didn't go on it, and he went to the writer's quadrant instead, because like that sounds like more fun, I guess. And
well, and the person who did confirm, like obviously other than Violet and co, confirm his identity is Lilith, and she didn't tell anyone. Like, she's dead.
Yeah, well, and she's like, oh, there you are. Like, your father has been looking for you. So we do know that his father, the king, has been looking for him more recently. But again, there's not like people, like, dogs sniffing around, like trying to find him kind of thing. Oh, all I'm trying to say here is that I think that his absence could be more prominent and come to light in the more political sense here.
Yeah. We'll talk about new adventures in a second. I want to discuss this old enemies because, of course, dragons, I think we've got that in the bag. Obviously, with the current dragons that we have, more obviously with learning more about the seventh den, we're going to get a lot more info on that.
Give me dragons. Give me dragons.
We need to talk about old enemies, though. Immediately, the first thought is Jack fucking Barlow. Kat is also another person, but I don't really know if we can call her an enemy by the end of the book, because they did kind of create a friendship, loose term.
Alliance. I'll say they created an alliance, yeah.
I do think that by the end of Onyx Storm, we are going to get Kat as a friend. I think that she is going to be up there, maybe not with Rhiannon. I really hope not. Rhea's just irreplaceable. But I do think that Kat is going to be a huge part.
I could see her being Imogen. Imogen style friend, where it's like, it's almost like a truce friendship versus a true I love you kind of friendship like she has with Rhea.
Yes, definitely. But I also want to pull out another possibility, because I did an ebook search of the word enemy, and there's one enemy that is associated with the enemy of the first 6. What if the old enemy is an old enemy? General Daramore. If Violet can indeed raise the dead, I know that's really the second signet I've been focusing on today. We know that there's a bunch of different possibilities. We went through 25 of them. So if you want to listen to that episode, I'll also put that in the show notes. But if the second Signet is raising the dead and talking to the dead. So maybe not, I shouldn't say raise the dead. I should say talk to the dead. Maybe she talks to one of the first six and learns more about this true old enemy, General Daramore, who, Lexi, I think you and I are both in agreement that we think that this is the Maven General Venin, who Xaden fought at the very end. Possibly there might be more. He might just be one of them, but that general's not dead. He is totally alive. Like, there's no way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like, we learned our lesson. Like, Xaden's like, oh yeah, I killed him. And it's like, yeah, fuck, you did. Like, he is definitely still alive. That is a hill I will die on. But I really do think that general is this General Daramore that we've heard so much about over these last few books. And like, that really would be taking old enemies to the extreme, like in the most literal sense possible. Another possible old enemy could definitely be Daddy Atos. We cannot forget about Daddy Atos. I joked on our live stream that maybe it was Varish and he's not actually dead. I really do think that he is dead. We got pretty good confirmation that there was even an alloy hilted dagger. So even if he is Venin, which we did speculate might be possible, he is dead. You know, another, of course, possibility is Jack fucking Barlow. But I do think, yeah, like Daddy Atos or the Venin General, they're all possible. They're all possibilities.
I think it's General Daramore. The second I thought,
think
like,
so too.
That was like, oh, I love that.
And I think that is also the same Venin. And I think that is a tie to both of them. Yep.
I also want to point out that at Annie_Marie7 on Instagram mentioned who was Violet's first, her OG enemy. It was Xaden. What if the old enemies could be referring to Zaddy Boy?
That is possible.
Don't like
that. That is very true. I mean, he was indeed an old enemy. That is a definition right there. Yep.
Ruh-roh.
I do love that she says new adventures, which of course does feel very like, duh, you know, with the new story, new adventures. I can already see the map though filling up more. And I just I love my maps. I love the geography. I love this world building and the lore. And I just totally see this correlating with new adventures, meaning new places, new experiences, new cultures, things along those lines. I could definitely see us going to the Barrens in Onyx Storm. Do I think that we're going to the Isles in this one? I don't know if we're going quite like that new of adventures. I think that she might be saving the Isles for like book 4 or even 5. I'm going to guess, like if I had to guess, I'd say book 4, and we'll keep focusing a little bit more on the Barrens in this book 3 here.
I don't know about that with how much Isles was dropped. Like, what did we count? 13 or something? Don't quote me on that. It's some absurd mention in the ebook search of Isle Kingdoms in Iron Flame itself. I could see it in book 3, but I think that it wouldn't be until like the later half of book 3. It like would not be in the first half for sure. I keep on saying book 3. We have a title. It would not be in the later half of Onyx Storm.
Both of us.
It's so hard. I don't think it would be in the earlier half. I think it would be in the later half. But I could see it in Onyx Storm solely because of how many teasers we got for it in Iron Flame. But if I'm looking at it without the teasers, without all those mentions, I would also assume book 4.
We got to save some of the teasers for book 4 and 5.
We will have new ones by the end of Onyx Storm. I am sure of it.
and last but not least, I know I already kind of said it, but phew, I'm so glad that there's dragons. Thank you for making sure that we have dragons in this, Rebecca.
Can you imagine if the dragons just yeeted out of the story and it was just
we're going to the Isle Kingdoms. Bye.
I do think that's where the 7th Dragon Den is chilling. Though I think that there are still other dragons in the 7th Dragon Den, and I do think that they are chilling in the Isle Kingdoms. Not because that's my catch-all, but because that, in my opinion, makes sense.
I actually do agree with you there too. Yes.
So let's wrap up this bonus episode with just some quick rapid fire things that we have seen literally just since this morning's post.
So let's just quickly kick it off with why Rebecca changed her profile photo to black and white in the days leading up to this announcement. Our best guesses are these.
Number 1, it is an homage to the T-Swift herself, Taylor Swift, and how she has also changed her profile photo to black and white. And also a lot of her friends have as well, causing the whole internet to spiral entirely about Reputation Taylor's version release. However, it most likely was changed in honor of the Tortured Poets department, but also, who knows, with the level of Easter eggs that woman plants. Rebecca is a huge Swiftie, so she might be jumping on this trend for her own announcement. I'm personally not leaning towards this option.
Well, number 2 is that Rebecca has confirmed in interviews, including the Variety article that posted in November, that book 3 will answer a lot of our Venin questions. So we are going to assume that there will be even more emphasis on Venin in Onyx Storm, especially now with the title. That does make sense there, like we've been discussing. And what do Venin do? They suck the life and color out of things. So this could be an Easter egg to the theme of Onyx Storm, Venin, and how they drain the life out of the world. And number 3, of course, Onyx is black. She shared black and white. It's more representation of the title and the vibe of the book. It could even be all 3 of them, where she's like, hey, what great timing for Taylor Swift's new album and my own release. And oh, hey, it actually works really well with all these other things too. And here we are being like, oh my gosh, it's crazy deep meaning. And it's just like, how convenient for me.
Can you imagine? Something else that we wanted to point out is from Kelsimbo on our Discord this morning in regards to the mini excerpt we got from Red Tower. What if this line is actually not from Tairn and instead from Papa Sorrengail, or as his research, like reading his research, or as a letter he wrote to Lilith? Because of the thank you so much for voicing Tairn, Michael Leoch, I'm leaning towards this is a Tairn line for sure, especially if this was Papa Sorrengail, like talking to the dead version. I do love that. That's pretty cool.
I love this idea, but like you said, Michael being like a signature voice of Tairn, so I really do think that it is Tairn who is saying this to someone, but I just love that concept. And I love anything where Papa Sorrengail is involved too. Like you just say Papa Sorrengail and I'm like, yep, I love it. That's yep, it's good. It's good. You all know that about me.
If we don't get his research till book 5, I will riot.
And then you know that it's going to be the answer to everything. And it's like, wow, this could have literally saved thousands and thousands of lives if we got this. If she looked at it in book 1 when she's like, oh yeah, I know where it is. Because you have to remember, Violet knows where this research is.
That's the thing that's making me think that it's not going to be like the Deus Ex Machina.
She doesn't know that it will be, but it will, because it'll be that final puzzle piece that brings everything else together. And Violet has no comprehension of how important it is. Otherwise, of course, she would have gone and gotten it.
Well, okay. The only reason I do think it is going to be the climactic ending of a book. I don't think it's going to be the climactic ending of the series, because if it is Papa Sorrengail's research that we have been discussing since fucking Fourth Wing, that Violet has known where it is since fucking Fourth Wing, that is too convenient. That is not Rebecca Yarros' plot style. Like, that just does not compute. I refuse to believe it, because that would make me so mad.
I really do think that we are getting it in book 3.
I think so too.
Because it will correspond somehow, some way to the Venin, to the Cure, to Andarna. We talked about this at length in our deep dives. I don't need to go into it right now. But it is, like I said, going to be the final puzzle piece to bring a lot of different concepts all together and help produce the answer. So another thing that happened this morning is that Barnes & Noble shared a possible cover of the book. Now, Nicole and I are both in agreement that we do not think that this is the real cover of Onyx Storm. On all of the other bookstores, it's like a placeholder thumbnail where it says, cover to be revealed soon. Rebecca would be posting like crazy when that cover comes out. And I don't think that this was an oopsie on Barnes & Noble's part, because it's still up and everybody's circulating it, and it's really caught fire. So I do think that it is just a placeholder. And yes, it looks really cool. Yes, it looks very similar to the other 2 books, but I do think that it is just a placeholder because, hey, social media is very visual. It requires photos, and that is what they chose to do for this photo representation of Onyx Storm.
I will say at first, I was like, did Barnes & Noble fuck up again? But I agree with you entirely. I do not think it is. The only thing I will say, and again, I'm so sorry, I saw this morning. I did not catch the person who mentioned it. But on this photo in Barnes & Noble, there is only one dragon. There is not numerous. Now, it kind of cuts off at the top. So I don't know if like the image that they originally were working with was one where like Tairn, assuming, is at the top or anything like that. But it does remind me that it is highly, highly possible that we will not have Tairn by the end of this series. I don't think Tairn is going to survive.
I'm
sorry. I don't think Tairn is going to live. I hate it.
I agree with you, but I don't like it. I refuse to think about that right now. That is not why there is only one dragon on the cover. I refuse.
That's what I don't think that's the reason only one dragon is on the cover. I refuse to believe he dies in book 3, especially given the power signet that Violet has from him. Like, that is going to be a huge player. I think if anything, he will die in book 5, which still sucks. But I will say also, I didn't think Dane would have a redemption arc until book 4. So,
and I thought Jack was dead, and I went on a full rant about how he is absolutely dead.
Okay, I've got our first bet. I think Jack dies in book 3.
Oh God, what if his soul gets mended too? Ugh, I don't think it will. No, he's dying. He's gotta die. He's gotta die.
He's gotta die. Oh my God, I can't wait for our bets list. I'm so excited. Okay, another thing we saw this morning was from at bryn.beck.24 commented on our Instagram video with, quote, I had to quote this entire thing because it was so cool. Just looked at the covers of Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, and what if it's a rune and each of the books add a layer to the rune? And what if the final result of this rune was the one cure to venin? Oh my God, what genius pill did you take, Bryn, this morning? I love it. Yes, I love this idea.
I love it so much, and it really makes me want to like pull out my Iron Flame and my Fourth Wing books right now. Like, I don't know if you can see me reaching behind me, it's like I just want to grab them and like look at them, and I think that would be absolutely phenomenal and so cool. And now that would also mean that we would technically need all 5 of the books before we do find that cure for venin. Again, not knowing exactly what we mean by that cure, but kind of generalizing, saying cure there. I could see that being like again, like putting all the puzzle pieces together and then it shows. I love that. I love that concept.
Also, if it is a sun, which we talked about in the Violet Second Signet episode, if it is a sun, suns bring life back into things. It very easily could be that symbolism there. Lexi's grabbing her books right now. I swear to God.
Sorry, audio listeners. This is for the YouTube people. So they are pretty separate right here. So here is Iron Flame.
You mean Fourth Wing?
That's what I meant. This is Fourth Wing. And then here we have Iron Flame. So they are, I'll say, like 2 complete runes. It doesn't look like they're part of a larger whole. So I love this idea. I will hold off my full opinion until we see the cover of the next book, because then that's a whole other level of speculation that we will be having.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
Also, another note here from Kelsimba, who has just been on it. The title's placeholder cover is black with gold, aka Xaden's eyes, further confirming that Onyx is indeed referring to Xaden here for Onyx Storm Book 3. All right, friends, before we wrap up this bonus episode, we want to fill you in on what this news means for the Fantasy Fangirls podcast. We plan to finish our ACOTAR deep dive late this year, and we're assuming ACOTAR 6, or 5, however you want to say it, releases in the first half of 2025. That is totally just our own speculation and based on absolutely no evidence, but I'm going to guess first half of 2025. However, I don't think that it'll be around the same time as Empyrean 3. And I say this more because we genuinely don't know what we would do if both of these books came out around the same time. Just like for our own like podcast schedule here, we will not worry about that. Yeah, I physically could not do that. So we will not worry about that until if we have to cross that bridge.
Something we will say is that with us finishing up ACOTAR at the end of, roughly at the end of this year, we will of course be covering all of the Onyx Storm teasers, anything associated with the book in the lead up to the release. If you were here with us in the lead up to Iron Flame, first of all, thank you for being an OG. We adore you all. We had so much bonus content. It was also right when we launched Fantasy Fangirls, so that was insane. We had so much bonus content as the announcement, previews, and everything came out. We will be doing a very similar style this round for Onyx Storm.
Don't worry, we will have plenty of content for you all between Onyx Storm lead up and other fantasy worlds we've been so excited to explore in the time between our ACOTAR coverage wrapping up and the start of our Onyx Storm deep dive. I think we even plan on taking some time off, which is like crazy for us. I'm so excited.
Go fucking
for December.
Now, of course, when Onyx Storm does drop, we will do our reactions episode just like we did with Iron Flame. And then soon afterward, once we've all had a chance to read it, we will begin the deep dive. I'm so excited.
I am too. And it's also like crazy that we're talking about this. Like this is almost a year in advance here too. We're talking like 10 months out here. So, we're so type A.
We really are. It's actually amazing. But friends, that is it for our initial thoughts, predictions, theories on Onyx Storm.
Thank you so much for joining us. Next episode on Monday, we will be going back to our regularly scheduled programming of ACOTAR Book 1. It's going to be episode 6, covering chapters 29 through 34.
Thank you, as always, to our executive producer, Hayden, aka our sanity manager. We love ya.
And like we said at the top of the episode, if you're interested in joining the Patreon party, head to our show notes, especially with all the fun Onyx Storm announcement stuff. Our Discord is bopping and it's so much fun theorizing with all this just little information that we're getting. Also, be sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter. Our March one is coming out today, and then we'll have the next one in April. And of course, if you're not following us on Instagram and TikTok, what are you doing? Give us a follow at Fantasy Fangirls Pod for all the Empyrean news, speculation, and so much more content.
Also, do not forget to take a moment and rate and review the show. It takes 2 seconds, and it is one of the most helpful things you can do for us as a show, but also for the other podcasts that you love. And if you're watching us on YouTube because you like our faces, then give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe to a channel so you never miss a emergency bonus episode like today. And of course, friends, the most important thing, share this with your fellow Empyrean peeps. If you also immediately thought about Xaden's gold-flecked onyx eyes and then immediately dreaded the fact that it's called Onyx Storm with all of us today, if you have a friend who's just like you in that front, share this episode with them because we can all freak out together.
All right, you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for being here. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.